at home, and welcome to the September Russellville City Council meeting. We ran a little bit long on our Finance Committee meeting, and the public who may be viewing this on TV, we are now in the process of getting ready to start the regular council meeting for this evening. We'll wait just a moment till everybody finds a seat. Yeah. Please come on in. Come on in and find a seat, folks, so we can get the meeting started. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to call the September Russellville City Council meeting to order, and I'm going to ask you to stand. Pastor Gail Brooks, First United Methodist Church, will lead us in our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we come before your throne tonight giving you thanksgiving and praise for all that you are and for all the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. God, we thank you that we are certain tonight that all that we have and all that we are is a gift from you. And we pray, dear God, that you would assist our mayor and the city council and all who are present tonight to make good decisions that benefit all who live in this place and take care of the resources that we have been blessed with. We thank you, God. We praise you. Please pour out your Spirit that all that we do might glorify you. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Thank you, Pastor Brooks. At this time, I'm going to ask the chairman of the Finance Committee to give his report. Mr. Horton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me, I jumped ahead. I need to get you to approve the minutes. Please give me a thank you.
Motion to approve the minutes, Your Honor.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. I was looking at your finance meeting there, Mr. Horton. Just about 30 minutes behind. Okay, at this time, I would ask if you would please stand up over here on my left. Mr. Kurt Jones, he made a report during the Finance Committee meeting. But I want everybody to have the opportunity to meet Mr. Jones and get acquainted with him. He is the new Russellville City Engineer and Director of Public Works, and we're very proud to have you in that position for the city. So welcome in this capacity, Mr. Jones. You bet. And with that in mind, he does have a report to give to us at this time regarding Public Works.
I brought copies of this for all the council members. I'll go ahead.
We can hand them down if you want to.
first of all, I know most of you, all of you actually, and I've worked with the city for some time. This is a little bit different role for me at this point, but I'm excited to be here. I'm excited about the opportunity to work with the city as the city engineer and public works director. You know, I've mentioned this to a couple of you already, but there's a great staff over there, and I've been here a little over a week and a half now, and you know, I knew what I was getting into going over there because I've worked with them over the last probably 7 years, and it's been a very smooth transition for me from my previous role as a consultant to the city to the city engineer, and again, I appreciate the opportunity. The mayor had asked me if I would be prepared to give an update after being here for a week and a half, and I felt like it was important to get in front of you and kind of at this point as soon as possible and kind of tell you what is going on over at Public Works and what we have accomplished this year and what we're looking to accomplish in the coming months. The handout you've got is just basically a short list of some of the accomplishments that we have made this year, and I'll go through it real quick. I know you've got a full plate this evening, so I'm not going to take up any more of your time than I have to. I've kind of broken this down into the different categories over in Public Works, and start with operations. We're continuing our mowing and ditch cleaning efforts and addressing work orders as they come in. We've to date completed 606 acres of mowing, cleaned nearly 90,000 linear feet of streams. We've completed 786 hours of street sweeping and have received a total of 2,166 work orders, and so far have closed 2,157 of those. And our continued goal is to close those out as soon as possible. And then there's an item there on our fleet department has worked on approximately 290 vehicles thus far. Under traffic, our traffic department has been busy replacing video detection loops. We've also had some repair and replacement opportunities on some traffic signals that have been struck by large vehicles. The one on 4th and Knoxville and the one on Lock and Dam Road were both suffered damage this year and had to be repaired. We've replaced over 1,000 signs, faded street signs, and are continuing to address those and identify those signs that need to be addressed. We're also, here in the next couple of months, we are going to start doing some restriping on some streets. We've identified some areas that need restriping, and we're in the process of getting cost estimates for that work right now. Our GIS and mapping guys have been at work continuing to work on the GIS maps for the city, and I've got some items there that they're actually working on, including transferring or migrating some of our newest version of Map Guide over to the GIS server software, and that will be ready for the launch in conjunction with the new City of Russellville website in December. We're also working with AHTD to collect right-of-way information from their state highways that pass through the city, and we're having, because they don't have that in digital format, we're having to actually take the hard copies and transfer those over to CAD. And then we're also continuing to scan all the subdivisions in the city, all the plans, construction plans, plats, and so forth into the system. We got a positive audit report from Floodplain Management Department. Our Floodplain Management Department got a positive audit report from Arkansas Natural Resources Commission, and we've, under permits, we've issued 148 right-of-way permits thus far this year. As far as our capital improvement projects, this year, projects that completed were H and Parker, the North Phoenix Overpass, and the Main Street Enhancement Project. We have substantially completed the two other projects, the Waco Detention Basin and the North El Paso Street Improvement Project. On the detention basin, the lacking on that project right now is the final asphalt for the trail and the placement of the picnic tables and benches that will go in that basin area to be used as a park. In El Paso, the only thing lacking at this point on it is some of the landscaping and tree plantings that we were waiting for the weather to break a little bit so that they wouldn't be stressed as much there. Upcoming capital improvement projects, we talked about these at the Finance Committee. And I'm planning to get started on Cedar Street as soon as possible. That's the road that will lead to the convention center. We'll be doing the design for that in-house. The Reasoner Lane extension is one that y'all have asked for some more information on that I'll be bringing to you next month or sooner if we can work that out. And that's, of course, the extension that would extend Reasoner on parallel to the I-40 and connect over to 124. And then the North Arkansas sidewalk projects, which y'all approved funding for earlier tonight. And that would be a sidewalk that would run along the west side of Highway 7, North Arkansas, from Parkway up to the Tech campus, L Street. We're working on overlays. We haven't completed any this year, but we have just today gave a list to our paving contractor, and we have approximately a mile of road, different roadway segments that is being slated to be overlaid here in the next couple of months, and we're looking at other overlay opportunities as well. With that, I'll wrap up my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding Public Works at this time.
Excellent.
Good report. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Mr. Jones. At this time, excuse me, I would like to ask the fire chief and police chief to please come forward. I have a presentation to make here. And let me say, this is maybe somewhat unusual, but we have two plaques here. One that is for the police department and one for the fire department that were given by a anonymous donor. And the statement on this says, "Thank you for your continued service, protection, and enforcement." And the quotation continues with, "Real heroes don't wear capes." Now, it's my understanding that this individual who did this is an Arkansas Tech student who was very grateful for the service of these two organizations. So I would ask, would you two please come forward at this time? Chief Humphrey, thank you very much. Please pass that on to your staff. I appreciate your service very much. Chief Cochran, you as well. Thank you very much. All right. We are at the financial report at this time. Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Finance report for August 31st. General fund revenues, we received $1,029,000, or 3.58% above our year-to-date projection. Sales tax receipts were $788,000. Franchise fees and permits were $91,000. Total expenditures for the general fund were $1,336,000. That's 1% above our year-to-date projections, but we've received $234,167 more receipted than expended. Operations for the street fund, $132,900, 4% above year-to-date projections. Sales tax receipts were $166,000. That's 16%. Like I was telling you before, we're way above our projection. Our new half-cent sales tax, we received $43,445, and that's the money we're using for El Paso. And then we received the escrow money for the Walmart of $125,000 last month. Street fund operation expenses are $129,009, 6% below projection. Sales tax expenditures were $261,494. We had no capital expenses. Economic development, $13,451, $8,450 in sales tax, $4,998 in interest. Expenditures were $293 for marketing. Capital assets revenues were $546,000. $518,489 is the new sales tax. $25,766 was a capital funding approved. $2,217 in interest. Our expenditures were $107,009. $16,899 went to City Corp. $2,254 to Parks and Rec. $27,300 for community development. $47,436 to the police department.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. McCoy?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good report. At this time, we have a department report from the IT department. Mr. James Hodge, who's the city webmaster and has other duties in the IT department, will give that report. Thank you.
Okay, big thing we're going to be doing this year is we're going to be doing a new website through a company called Civic Plus. They are a local government website provider. They've been doing it since 2001, and we're looking at a tentative live date of December 18th for the city. This is kind of an overlay of how the website's going to look. It's just a grayscale model. You're going to have your slideshow in the center and then links all around it. Here's a site that we like and are modeling our site off of. It's a Civic Plus site out of League City, Texas, and it's going to be something similar to this one. Another one here locally is Hot Springs. They also are a Civic Plus website, and they have actually won 2 national awards here recently for their new website. They just started this website at the beginning of this year. We have contacted a lot of local photographers, and we've actually sent up some employees to include the mayor in one of the aircrafts that the airport maintain, one of the employees there, and we're taking some aerial shots of the city and just different shots around the city for our website, and just wanted to highlight a few of the better pictures. Subject to your questions, that concludes my report.
Was that short and sweet, Mr. Hodge? Anybody have any questions regarding that? I think it's a good demonstration of what that will look like. Thank you very much. Moving right along. At this time, we have commission appointment, Mr. Tommy Heinzman, Parks and Recreation. I think our Parks and Recreation Director, Mr. Hollis, is going to make he said something about skeletons. I'm not real sure about
I don't feel with skeletons.
something like that. No, recommendation.
I don't know if y'all are aware, but last Tuesday, longtime Parks Commissioner Dr. Michael Johnson resigned effective last Tuesday. And our commission, we're about to get really busy with the aquatic center and the trail system, so we really needed to move along. I recommended to the mayor to recommend to the council the appointment of Mr. Tommy Heinzman. Tommy is here. He's in the back corner. For those of y'all that don't know Tommy, he's co-owner of Heinzman & Son Tire Company. He is a graduate from 1979 from Arkansas Tech University. same year I graduated. That we won't go into the 70s though, but he has served as a volunteer fireman with the Russellville Fire Department. He served for 8 years on the pension board with the fire department. He served with the Russellville Country Club board for 10 years. And I used to visit with him a lot then because he was in charge of pool operations and maintenance for the club and golf course maintenance. So we used to visit back and forth about that. He also is a reserve deputy for the sheriff's department. So that'll really be helpful in some of our park meetings, park commission meetings. But also Tommy has 5 grandkids, ages 4 to 13. And I know his family, they've been here forever. In Russellville, and they're very athletic, so they'll be involved in many of them. I'm sure that his grandkids will be involved in many of our programs and activities, and I think he'll do a fine job for the department.
Well, we have that recommendation, and yes, I do need a motion, please.
Motion we approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Heinzman, I just want to say thank you very much. It is an unpaid job. I know you were probably looking for maybe a little financial support for that effort. No, it is a great deal of pleasure that I am looking forward to having you serve on that board. I know you and I know your character, and I know that you will make us a very good board member. It takes a lot of energy and time to do something like this, and we do appreciate anyone who will volunteer to serve our city in that capacity. Thank you, sir. At this time, we have an organizational report regarding Arkansas Valley Alliance for Economic Development. Mr. Pipkin is here to give us the update on that.
Thanks, Mayor. I know none of these people are here to hear me talk, so I'm going to be as very short and very sweet as I can be as well. Oh, good. I don't have to do anything. I've just got 2 slides I wanted to go over real quickly. One, kind of in a very brief way, let you know some of the things that we've accomplished since the Arkansas Valley for Economic Development was established back in 1997. We have successfully recruited 17 new industries to our area, creating 950 new full-time jobs. That's a pretty good record for a region our size. We've also assisted existing industries with 61 expansion projects. That includes 5 this year, and I'll go over that in just a second, resulting in the creation of over 2,400 new full-time jobs. And something I think is real important for folks to know is we have applied for and secured 25 grants during this time, totaling just under $6.5 million. Now, the city of Russellville has been kind enough to pay contract dues to our organization since '97 in various amounts, but all total, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.5 million, a little over that. And just through those grants alone, we've been able to return 4 times that much, as much money just from those grants. And most of that money's been invested in things such as streets improvements and extensions and utilities, some training, some temporary rental space for industries as they're setting up and doing interviewing and training and all that sort of thing. So it's a pretty impressive record, I think, and something we're very proud of. Do I need to touch something to go to that next screen? Thanks, Jerry. Now, more specifically this year, which is what you guys would kind of look for an update on, and I put 2013 and 2014 because our fiscal year begins June 1, and anyway, but I tried to include most everything that's happened this year. We've successfully recruited 2 new industries, resulting in the creation of approximately 185 new full-time jobs with a capital investment of over $12 million. Now, one of those you probably recall is Rockline Industries that recently purchased the former Goodies Distribution Center building out in the East End Industrial Park. They are hiring now, so anybody interested, you can go to Rockline, I think it's rocklineindustries.com, and look at the job postings there. The other industry has closed on the real estate deal, but they've asked me not to reveal their name just yet, but they are coming to Russellville, and they will be employing about 60 people, most likely not all by the end of this year because they've got a lot of retrofit to do to the building and so forth, but I would say between now and probably sometime in the first quarter of next year. We've also been working with 5 existing industries with expansion projects that will result in the creation of over 160 new full-time jobs. One of those has a grant application pending. But those 5 industries, we're just as proud or more proud of being able to assist our existing employers, and we do that in various ways, primarily in helping them with their applications for state incentive programs and also bringing all the right players, you guys, utilities, whoever it may be, together to work with these guys and resolve any issues there may be. I'll give you a good example of one of the successes of that effort is Superior Graphite Corporation. They just celebrated their 30th anniversary last week, and a few years ago we worked real closely with them, made trips to Chicago to their corporate headquarters to secure an expansion at that plant that they were also looking at an existing operation in another state, one of our surrounding states, and we were fortunate enough to win that project and added several new jobs there. So in a nutshell, that's what we do, and we're having a very good year, and if we get our way, we'll be back by the end of this year telling you about another one we think we're going to land, so keep our fingers crossed on that. Short and sweet, that's my report. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your time. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Pipkin. Appreciate that update. All right. Committee reports. Finance Committee, Mr. Horton.
Thank you, Mayor. The Finance Committee met on the 9th in our regular first meeting of the month. That meeting produced 2 line item transfers. They're on your sheet as items 1 and 2. Those are just line item transfers within existing budgets. The Finance Committee recommends those to the council in the form of a motion.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Items 3 and 4 were appropriations. The Finance Committee also recommends those in the form of a motion.
You have heard that motion as well. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
We met again tonight, Mayor, before this meeting, and produced a short docket of items for consideration. Item 1, some capital improvement projects with a recommendation of appropriating $375,000 so that we can start engineering work and pre-engineering on Cedar Street, Reasoner Lane, and North Arkansas, some sidewalk rehabilitation. The Finance Committee recommends those in the form of a motion.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
The committee considered a resolution for the city to accept the pavilion at Depot Park. The recommendation on that is in the form of a motion for approval.
You have heard the recommendation. All those in favor of that say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
The third item we considered was more just a discussion point. Mr. McCoyne updated us on where we are with sales tax collections, where we will be at different points as our projects progress. Mr. Irwin made a motion that we put this on next month's agenda, but I thought we'd go ahead and mention it tonight. We will be preparing a resolution that essentially will have us in construction on the Aquatic Center, the Central Fire Station, and the Depot Pavilion before the end of 2015. So that's just a update. Item 4, we recommended that we approve the 2013 audit of the city by legislative audit. That is in the form of a motion.
You have heard the motion to accept the audit. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Finally, we had 4 appropriations tonight from different departments. They're all on your list. We welcome any discussion that anybody might have questions on it, but the committee recommended those in the form of a motion.
We have a motion for those 4 items, 5, 6, 7, and 8 on your committee report agenda. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, that is all we have.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Horton. Mr. Stuber, do you have anything, the Personnel Committee?
Mayor, the Personnel Committee has nothing to report at this time.
All right, thank you very much. Let me interject something here before we go into the business of the agenda relative to reports. I just want to notify all of you that I attended the West Central Planning Commission meeting today, and there was recommendation, and it was passed by the board to approve grants in the total of $1,378,000 and odd change, of which the city of Russellville has been awarded 3 grants totaling $122,500. Your West Central Planning Board did approve those. You should be receiving, the city should be receiving notification of that in the very near future. So there were related to Trails proposal, ATU North Phoenix, Bonadilla, the City Hall camera system and Wi-Fi for security and other purposes, and electric entry system for the police department. So those were the 3 grants that we received, and we certainly do appreciate that.
Mayor,
Yes.
before we move on, to add something to our night's agenda, is this the appropriate time to do it, to make an attempt to do it?
I would say that we can do that at this time.
When Mr. Irwin resigned, he was liaison to the Advertising and Promotions Commission. And I assumed when Mr. Wiley got appointed that Mr. Wiley would take over all his responsibilities. But Trey says that the Advertising and Promotions Commission position should be voted on by the city council. And I would move to put that on the city council agenda at this time.
For consideration as a late agenda item?
Right.
Okay, all right. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Irwin, I think, second. Is that right, Mr. Irwin?
That's correct.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to consider a late agenda item regarding the filling of a position as it is involved with Advertising and Promotion Commission. All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any discussion at this point?
I do have a question. I know that we'll be turning the council over several individuals at the end of the year. Typically, when you turn the council over there, the way it's typically run in the past, senior council members get an opportunity to lobby for various positions in various areas. Is this appointment going to be longstanding, or will this appointment be considered only to the end of the year?
It will only be to the end of this year. That's correct. And then as we call it, organizing the city, as you mentioned, each year, we go back and we make those selections over again. So
Thank you.
it will be whatever we consider here only through October and to December. So,
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
after, I've had conversations going back a long time, probably up to last year. We have actually 2 liaisons to the A&P committee, myself being the other one. At this time, I would nominate Spence Roberts to fill that open seat.
Second that nomination.
All right. We have a nomination here. Is this the order to take that in, or should that be held at the end of the following
Normally,
regular business?
rules say it goes to the end unless it's moved up by then.
All right, all right. I want to get a clarification on that. In order to do this, normally that would go to the end of the meeting after all of the regular agenda items have been considered. If you all desire to go ahead with that at this time, I would need a motion to change that and address it at this time.
We can do it at the end.
All right. All right, we'll go and we'll discuss that at the end. Thank you. All right. There is no old business for this evening. So we'll move to new business at this time. The first order of new business is to consider an ordinance accepting the final plat of Overland Park subdivision submitted by David Garza with Barrett and Associates.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
after having a couple of discussions with Attorney Smith and with some of the other members of the council, I think to be sure that to avoid any appearance of unfairness, either to Mr. Jeton or to the process of this council, at this time, I'm going to abstain from this discussion.
All right. Thank you for that. Please, I know we know you, but please state your name for the record.
Mayor, do we need a motion for discussion? To have discussion?
Yes, we'll have to have a motion before we can discuss it.
I'd make a motion for approval.
Second.
You're gonna
Suspend the rules.
suspend the rules, otherwise there'll be no discussion because it won't be up for adoption. It'll be a first reading.
Right.
So
All
do I
right, would
need
you
to
like to
suspend the
change
rules?
that
Suspend
motion
the-
at this time?
Make a motion to suspend the rules?
Okay.
And do what, we're gonna do, read one time by title only, we're gonna read it for the, what, short explanation?
Short
For the
explanation.
First reading only, what,
Short explanation.
for which reading?
Okay, we have a motion to suspend the rules with consideration of reading
One.
this by
One time.
title only, one time, with a short explanation. Is everybody clear on that?
Is there a second to it?
We had a second. All right. All those in favor to suspend the rules, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Smith, thank you.
Ordinance approving the final plat of Overland Park subdivision, accepting the dedication of the easements to the city of Russellville, Arkansas, and for the purposes this ordinance, if passed, would accept the final plat of Overland Park subdivision, which was made and submitted to the city back on August 13, 2014. It would accept the easements as dedicated to the city that is shown on the plat, require a bond to be set, the amount to complete the improvements as approved by the city engineer.
All right.
So next in order to discuss and vote would be a motion to adopt, is that correct? So moved.
Yeah. We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All right? Time for discussion. Any discussion?
Is, normally don't we approve final plats, when the curb and gutter are in and maybe the gravel down?
Yes, sir, if you're asking me, that's the general
Well,
procedure that we have followed.
Mr. Garza,
Sir?
Mr. Barrett, is there any particular reason why you're not at that point right now?
Without going through the entire history, we experienced significant delay, and one of the reasons right now the curbs aren't in is because the electricity is not in. We just received the approval of the design from Energy last Friday, and it would be much further along at this point, but we are, what we submitted is consistent with the ordinance, and the city is not at risk. Developers can post a bond for everything that's not in place, and I believe he is going to be starting electricity within a week or next week, and anticipate working very shortly thereafter.
Mr. Barrett, what's the need to have a final plat approved at this time rather than proceeding with construction coming back at a later date?
Because we'd like to improve now.
Okay.
We're ready to post a bond, and it's been, we've not requested any variance. This project is, it's a need that the city has, and we're ready to get it done.
Thank you.
Mr. Barrett, if we approve this with the bond, how much will that expedite the process? I know you all are paying interest, I assume, monthly. Is it going to speed it up a month, 2 months? What's it going to do for you guys?
Weather's very good, and construction's happening out there every day. I think Mr. Thomas is working on the contractor for the electricity contract, so expect to be starting. And, it's just a matter of finishing this project up. It's been drug out long enough. There's a significant investment that's in place right now. It's ready to go. We're not asking for anything different than hasn't been done before.
Okay, what the bond amount, it would be in to cover what specifically? I'm relatively ignorant with.
Right now, the curb gutter asphalt, gravel is not in place, and the electricity is starting. So that bond will cover those items.
And that would alleviate the risk of the city. Okay.
Let
Thank
me,
you.
let me ask Mr. Jones, I know that he may have some questions in regard to this. You have any comments or anything?
I don't necessarily have any questions, but I would just like, I'll comment on it. The project, we've gone out and looked at it. Everything that has been put in to this point has been put in according to plans. The water and sewer is in the ground. It has been tested. The storm drain is in the ground. The streets have been rough cut. There is no curb and gutter, no base. I think, Mr. Stuber, in answer to your question, and just our ordinances are not clear on what unfinished improvements can or cannot be bonded. They don't stipulate. Historically and traditionally, the city of Russellville has required that the curb and gutter and gravel be in place before they accept the final plat. And that then they've allowed bonding of the final layer of asphalt.
Mr. Jones, would approving this plat at this time, would it set a bad precedent, or would it put the city at any additional risk?
Well, I think, it puts the city in a position of, if assuming the bond is adequate, and, this project, appears to be well-funded. I don't see any chance that it will, that there's going to be a situation where the city is going to be left holding a bond and having to complete a subdivision. However, back to your original question of setting a bad precedent, if the city starts accepting plats, at various stages of completion, at some point, the city will likely be in a position where they're left with a bond and having to go out with that bond and complete a subdivision. I mean, that's, that's the fact. It's your decision whether or not that risk is acceptable.
Mr. Barrett, may I ask one more question? Is there a tangible reason other than that you want it, you want a final plat? Why you can't come back when construction is farther along rather than now? I mean, this is not going to hold up your construction. It's not going to speed it up, is it? Not going to really have any effect on construction, is it? Yes. What effect? Okay.
Please state your name, sir.
I'm the developer for this project. Basically, you're looking at, this is not an impulse item. When somebody gets ready to buy a lot or a house, you're looking at a long-term purchase decision. You're going to borrow money from the bank most likely, and then we're going to have to get a housing plan together. And what I'm looking at is hopefully 30 days before we have the curb and gutter in place to get this done. But there's been a black cloud, I think, that's over this project because of all the delays and everything else that we've been through. So with final plat approval, I think that would move some of the black cloud that may be over this project and gives me the opportunity to go out, and start selling some of these lots. With the understanding that nobody can move into the subdivision until the final service.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Jones, Mr. Giton, whoever, the bond amount, the way I understand it, it's 150% of the projected expenses of what is not completed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Smith, legal recourse, legal issue for the city, is there anything that you see that is making the city susceptible or anything by doing this and having the bond and or letter of credit or both in hand?
I think that's why Section 3 is there, to try and protect the city legally about having the bond there, and it's conditional on the bond being there. The only thing you will have to note is that Public Works will need to stay on top of this, because the ability for the city to draw on that bond will last 1 year. So if the projects aren't being done by then, the city will have to make a decision. So they'll have to monitor it. After that time's up, then it'll be gone.
So the city's time frame would be 1 year to take action on a bond or letter of credit. Is that correct?
That's correct, unless it's extended by mutual agreement of the parties.
Okay. Next question, Mr. Smith. Is there any recourse for the city to hold up on issuing building permits or certificate of occupancies on a structure that is built upon the completion of these items, or until completion of these items?
I'm not sure if I understand. You're saying if there's an issue, can the city hold up on those?
No, if final plat is granted, can the city hold or not issue building permits or not issue certificate of occupancies until those items are finished?
I believe if it's granted, then they can, is my understanding, provided they also they meet the other requirements of the building code. Well, right, if they meet the other parts of the code.
But the city could not hold up on issuing a building permit, only a certificate of occupancy, correct? So
That's
the final
correct.
plat is approved, and a lot is sold in 60 days from now, and it's built in 6 months from now. Person is ready to build a house. Can we hold that building permit if these infrastructure items are not complete?
I don't see how we could hold it.
Okay.
Again, you've got the bond there to complete those infrastructures. That's your remedy.
Okay, but the city could withhold a certificate of occupancy
That's-
at that point. Okay.
I believe at that
I'm just
point,
asking for
yes.
clarification.
Mayor, I call for the question.
Wait, I would like to interject a statement here on this. Now, I think you've heard that, this probably will not be the case because of the financing of this particular project, that this could go awry. But I just want to say, as a matter for the record, we're not here as a city to build private developments. And there is some risk, maybe not with this individual developer, but if we set a precedence of approving this, that there is a risk that it could put the city there to do that in the future. And you've heard it from several sources here tonight that traditionally we've only bonded the last asphalt, not the curbs and gutters and the base and all of that sort of thing. Now, I know there has been some work there, but it's a long way of being something that would be occupiable. The plat, in this instance, has more leverage than dipping into a bond or insurance or withholding a certificate of occupancy. And I think that it puts the city in a precarious position if we begin doing something of this nature. And I've got to also say that no one, to my knowledge, from the developers, people have submitted this particular plan to Public Works or whatever. And the developer put it on the agenda themselves. I don't think Public Works was conferred with, nor myself, nor the city planner. And I do know that the water, all of the water that has been put in has not yet been approved there in my questioning of City Corp today. And there are no other utilities looking at this as of yet. So I think here again that we are setting a bad precedence if we go forward with this in this manner. And I just want that on record.
Mr. Jones or Mr. Barrett, whoever, is there any difference between the preliminary and final plat?
Any difference in this? I'm sorry,
On this
repeat the question.
subdivision, I think a few months back, we passed a preliminary plat, or we did something
That's
on
correct.
it. And is there any difference between what we passed in and what's before us today?
There is none that I'm aware of, but I haven't, I'm not sure, I have not even seen the final plat on this project.
The final plat was given to Public Works, and received approval on August 12th, and There's a lot of things that were said that I won't go back through. We've done what we're supposed to actually, we've done above and beyond. Preliminary plans that went through, the construction plans will not be approved in that manner, and the developer proceeded and did some additional
Mr. Barrett, is there any risk to the developer to, if it doesn't get approved and, the reason that construction cannot discontinue until we have gutter, curb and gutter and utility? Well, I mean by not approving the plat at this early stage, because it looks to me like, I don't know, I don't know why, I don't know, I'm not really clear as to why you want it approved when there's so much left to do.
City engineer from the Board of Directors for the city for 12 years. I've been involved in this type of construction and paying attention to what's happening in the city for well over 20 years. This is not the first one like this. We're not
No.
asking for anything that the ordinance does not allow. There have been
Interpretive.
a much more risk-prone situation recently than what this project is. There is no risk to the city. The bond will cover any outstanding construction. I'm just confused. And this is a very beneficial project. You have a local developer. We're talking local development. We're not talking outside. All this stuff is in-house. Every contractor that's been out there tonight, except for one, that poured a little bit of concrete, has been local. I'm just confused. Mr. Irwin, if I may. My name's David Garza. I also work for American Associates. I'm also a surveyor. And to answer maybe your question, I would believe the answer would be the market. Because as a surveyor, we see the market go up in the housing and then come down and then go up and then come down every year. Your highest sales market in the housing is the spring and the fall. Right now, we're in the fall. This summer, we had a very low survey rate on homes and resales. Right now, our board is at the bottom. We have no list left. We're trying to figure out how we're going to get all this stuff done. So the market is there. If we get this final flat there, then he can commence to hit the market before it goes away. And like Mr. Tom said, there's a time stamp once you start and you get an offer of acceptance, then you've got to go through the financing and then through the planning, so it takes a while. And you don't want to lose that market when it's hot, when it's there. So that's what we're trying to get. And it's getting very, very close.
Of course, you know, the way I look at this, if we approve this, they can start selling lots tomorrow. That's correct?
That's right.
That's not correct.
Huh?
That is not
No.
correct at all. Do not start selling lots until the bond's posted, the final price file.
Okay, until the bond posted, and you're saying you're gonna do that next week?
No, I did not.
What'd you say?
I said the electricity is going, the construction, electricity is going next week. I said within 30 days.
Okay, but in 30 days, you can start selling lots, then, right?
Within 30 days, we will file.
Yeah, that's the madness. We're gonna approve this final plat, and that's gonna set the stage. That's gonna begin the process for y'all to begin to sell lots. Yes or no? That's correct.
You know,
Okay.
What the concern is, what is the risk of the city? What is the issue with the project?
I would say,
Mr. Stewart, allow Mr. Stewart to ask his question. I like to
You
hear what
know-
he's got to ask.
you know, my concern is you start selling lots, and contrary to what Mr. Garza said, you can buy a lot, get a construction loan and start construction within a week's time. Real easy. And someone can start a house and get the house finished, and the city won't issue a certificate of occupancy, and everybody's gonna be hollering at the city. The city's holding it up, you know, if the project is not finished.
Been there and done it. This is,
Mr. Harris, on this end, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to hear what
Okay.
Mr. Garland had.
All right.
that's on every subdivision.
Any other questions from the bench? Chief Cochran?
Just for clarification to address the issue Mr. Tripp asked about the certificate of occupancy building permit.
So, Chief
Thank you.
Cochran, that sounds to me like you're saying that's almost a safeguard on the city's part.
Keep progress happening.
Any other questions? We had a motion.
Motion and a second to approve.
We had a motion and a second to approve. No other questions? All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We need a voice vote. Ms. Collins?
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Abstain.
I'm sorry, Ms. Freddie Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Stuber,
No.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Martin Irwin,
No.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. New business number 2. Consideration of a resolution to issue a special use permit approved by the Planning Commission.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? New number 3, discussion of a request by department heads regarding banning street solicitation. Are there any questions in regard to that? Let me,
Motion to adopt.
okay.
What are we adopting?
Let's see
Yeah,
what
that's
you
what I want to know.
Banning street solicitation
I
deal.
don't see what.
It's a discussion.
Don't
It's a
see nothing.
discussion at this
That is?
point.
I thought we were ready to make a motion.
Well, I don't see nothing to make a motion on.
Good point. Okay.
All right. Here's
I thought we discussed it last month, and we're gonna have a,
Well, we don't have nothing in front of us, sir, to
we did.
tell us what we're voting on.
We're not at a point to discuss yet. Okay?
What exactly are we talking about,
Well,
banning?
there's several different things here, and I'll share what our police chief gave to me earlier. During the past year, there were 74 reports to police department about street solicitation. Of those, 30, close to 50%, were people in the roadways that were blocking the roadway. The primary concerns were the legitimacy also of those who were soliciting and the safety of the solicitor and the safety of the person who was being solicited by the street vendors or solicitors. This is not a popular item, and it causes issues for people who are legitimately trying to get donations in the city, who work and are active in the city for various causes and reasons. Where the issue generally comes into place is when we've got people from out of town who come and attempt to solicit in our roadways. And the issue is people stepping out in the roadways. According to our regulations, they are supposed to stay beyond the right-of-way and not step out into the streets, which makes it almost impossible, and that is on state highways and whatnot. But that's where most of these solicitations come.
Mayor, are we talking about Girl Scout cookie sales?
No.
Like that, or what are we talking
No, we're talking about street solicitation, people standing on the streets or stepping out in the streets toward vehicles that are driving up and down the street.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, we're not talking about the legitimate, like I'm talking about, local organizations and things like that going door to door and whatnot.
Well, am I correct that if they step out into the street, then they're violating an existing city ordinance? So why don't we just enforce the ordinance we have?
What we would like to do is just ban that. They can get a permit to do that. The problem is trying to enforce that whenever there's people up and down the streets constantly.
Well, I'm going to have to agree with you. That's very dangerous.
Again, we have an ordinance. I mean, is there? I wonder if there's a reason why we can't enforce it. If it's this big a problem, looks like we ought to be able to enforce it.
Can we get the chief up here?
Well, I'll tell you what we can do. We can get a report on that, and by the time somebody is dispatched there, the situation is totally changed. So it's a futile effort to have an ordinance that is established that way that is basically impossible to enforce.
So you're saying we need to just abolish it?
That's my recommendation, that we change the ordinance just to ban street solicitation like that.
Is this what the police department recommends?
Chief Humphrey, would you like to address that question?
We discussed this at a department head meeting about 2 months ago.
Yes.
Where's Brian? Brian, he can add to what I'm saying if he needs to. Our primary concern is the safety of the people that's doing the solicitations. There's two things. One, their safety, and the safety of those people that are driving the cars. What we find is that people will get out into traffic no matter if we have an ordinance or not. They're stepping out into traffic as people are driving. The state has outlawed it on state and U.S. highways. So Highway 7 and Highway 64 in Russellville is against the law to solicit in those streets. So the people are using city streets, primarily Parkway and some of the other ones, the large thoroughfare streets. And they're stepping out into traffic and they're creating an alarm to those people driving. And I won't say strong arm tactics, but to some degree, yes. We've had complaints of that, where the people driving cars feel intimidated that someone's standing there banging on their window wanting donations. It's something that we've been dealing with for years, and every year we get the calls of solicitors in the street. People don't like it. So there's several facets to this problem, and we do have an ordinance. You can't stand out in the street.
They leave the sidewalk.
But they do. They walk out into traffic because we have multi-lanes like Parkway with 4 and 5 lanes, and they'll walk out into traffic. And they dispatch police. We get there. Sometimes they're there. Sometimes they're not there. Even when we tell them, stay out of the street, we leave, they go right back out in the street. That's our concern. Brian, do you have any more?
I would just concur with that and just let everybody understand that this has been an ongoing rough situation for code enforcement and police department, because we would have to have somebody there 24/7 as long as they're there to be able to enforce this. There's no way to enforce it without somebody standing there with those people and making sure they don't go out in the street. There's no way to grab the money until you get out in the street. They're going to have to pull over to give you the money. You can't get in the street. They do. How can they get the money without being in the street? It's just a bad ordinance.
Better wait till the big spot.
So, in regard to this discussion, what we're recommending is that we redo that ordinance to make it to where that's not acceptable.
Mayor, I'd like for you to bring this ordinance back to us next month.
All right. Any other discussion while we're
I'd like to
on the
see-
subject?
Were we talking about just abolishing it, just getting rid of it?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Okay. All right, good. All right, thank you. Item number 4, discussion of possible legal action regarding premium protein products. I know we have one individual in the audience here who signed up to speak on that. And this information was provided. There was considerable information provided to you in regard to this. And we're open for discussion from the bench.
Is anybody here who is considering being a plaintiff in the lawsuit?
Mr. Fomborg is here, who would like, he is the one who signed up and would like to address the council. Yes, yes, sir. Go right, yeah.
This is something that you should read. It's a new one that just come out. I talked to Lakeisha today. It's actually a 20-page report on all of the violations. Even one, I don't know if it's a violation on the city's part, but it's up to the city to inspect the rooms, and I don't know if the city does it. You might want to read those, but it is a 20-page.
Yes, sir. Would you state your name and address the...
My name is L.J. Faubourg. I live on Neptune Street here in Russellville. And this might sound like kind of a saga when I'm getting into it, but I'll make it quick. A couple weeks ago, we had the neighborhood watch. And it's for Neptune, Pluto, and portions of 18th Street. After the meeting was over, a gentleman stood up and he wanted to talk about the odors that's in Russellville and how the city is permeated with such a stench. He said that 30 plus years ago, he went to Arkansas Tech. And during his time there, the smell was so bad that the college would bring the students back in so they didn't have to smell this. And this tells me that this thing has been going on for 30 plus years, and the city hasn't done a doggone thing about it. We was talking, now what else can we do? Now this sounds like a threat, and it isn't a threat. But we can bring on a class action lawsuit against the city for failure to adequately protect the quality of life of its citizens. We don't want to threaten the city. We don't want a lawsuit. But if you're going to continually sit on your hands and let this stuff go on, then we will do it. Another thing I don't understand is you, Mayor Eaton. When I talked to you a week after I spoke to you about this meeting, you said bring as many people as I can to City Hall that you need to support. What do you need to support for? You know what it smells like. You told me it stunk at your home. You told me it stunk down here, and it's all over town. Now, every one of you people have smelled it. You've been around a long time. I've lived here for 7 years, and the rest of you have lived here for a long, long time. Like I say, it's not a threat, but we will go on with it if you don't do a doggone thing about it. I'm tired of going out on my deck and smelling the stench of dead animals. I hate to see the facility closed. I don't want to see anybody lose their job. But it's up to you people, instead of sitting on your hands, to work with these people, with the rendering works, and get something done. Now, I've got the names of the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. If you need it, I'll give it to you, but I'm sure, Mayor, you have it. I'm going to leave it up to you. If you got a question, I'll be glad to answer for you. Does anybody else have any questions?
There's currently a consent administrative order in operation, isn't that correct?
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
So there's currently a consent administration order from ADEC at work right now, isn't there? Isn't there a consent administrative order pending?
There
yes, there is, I see, right, yeah. CAOLIS 14009. What are benchmarks that the corporation is supposed to be meeting in order to comply with the CAO? Do you know?
No, I don't.
Okay. Thank
now,
you,
I gave the mayor some information. Maybe it might be on that.
I'm looking at that right now.
I don't think that's the same one that I give the mayor.
Just now it is.
I just handed it down to Mr. Irwin there.
Is there any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Feinberg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here from Premium Protein Products who would like to speak at this time? Yes, sir. Come to the microphone and state your name.
My name is Dan Craig. I'm the manager of the Premium Proteins product in question over here at Bernice Avenue. I can tell you I've been there for less than 2 years, and it's true that this facility is very old. It was started in 1954 as Standard Rendering Company. When I took this job, I knew it was going to be an uphill battle. It has changed hands no less than 4 times in those last 60-some years. And it seemed like every person that purchased it took everything they could out of it and just let it run down. When I took this facility, it was an uphill battle. But in the last 18 to 20 months, Pilgrim's Pride has authorized myself through the requisitions that I've asked for. Over $869,000 is what we have spent in the last 18 to 20 months. We've called in 5 major national consultant firms for odor abatement systems. There's been countless hours spent on doing improvements to this. Yes, I recognize the fact that there is upsets, but I could probably ask, there's upsets in every business. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Like I said, we have more plans to be instituted there. I work closely with our Colorado office. Pilgrim's Pride purchased this group, and then Pilgrim's got purchased by JBS Company a few years back. And so now I'm in contact with Colorado, and that's where our general offices are. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody would like to have me. Council members, Mr. Mayor?
Sir?
Yes, sir.
How much can you do to stop the smell? I'm gonna have to agree with the guy out here.
Mm-hmm.
I live on the south side of town, not very far out, but I smell it nearly, well, not every day, but I can smell it. It's bad.
Yes, and that's my goal. That's what I've been commissioned by that's the reason why they hired me to bring me into this operation.
Have you been ticketed for the smell or not, or is it up to standard?
What do you mean?
The quality. What? What is?
Yeah, they have received, Mr. Wiley, they have received several citations over a period of time.
We have corrective actions orders, yes.
So have you corrected those?
The corrective action orders have been addressed, and by that...
Well, addressed and completed is 2 different things.
That is correct, sir.
These are consent administrative orders or correction action?
They're corrective action, CAOs, corrective action order. We have those from the ADEQ.
Well,
Chemistry-wise, we're well within the guidelines of Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. Some of the things that they had mentioned is some of the aesthetics, like we have a lot of standing water. We have very old concrete. This facility's was started in 1954, then it was relocated in 1974. And that concrete is very, very old, so therefore we have a lot of ponding water. And that was one of the corrective action orders, is to get rid of the ponding water.
Does Citicorp inspect the ponds?
Citicorp does, yes, sir.
You have, I guess you have record of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Craig?
No?
On the report that I gave the mayor, that report was, you were just inspected not very long ago.
That's correct.
What is the open barrels of product sitting outside?
The barrels in question that they took the pictures of, I don't know if you had the pictures of that, Mr. Clover, or not, but the pictures were from the fellows who were opening up the doors, removing the waste from the previous shift, bring them outside, close the doors, and then they take them over there. At that time is when the picture was taken. There's no open barrels. That's part of our...
That's it, open barrels.
Yes, I agree, but that was because the men were just taking them out of the facility at the end of the shift to take them over to dispose of them.
Mr. Gray, I have a question. Yes. You said over the last 18 months y'all have spent some money and made improvements.
Yes, sir.
And I'm looking at the ADQ report, and I read about 9 or 10 reports here in 2014 and about 5 or 6 in 2013, and then I read on back to 12 and 11, and I don't see a reduction in the number of reports over the last 18 months or what was there previously. So I'm just curious, if you made improvements, when I would kind of expect the number of reports to go down and not remain the same or increase. So can you kind of clarify that for me?
Are you referring to Mr. Borman's letter of August 20th?
No, I'm reporting this ADEQ report that I was provided.
Well, I don't have that in front of me, so I don't know which one that is. But I know that there was a lot of paperwork reported on one of the reports from the ADEQ. If that's what you're referring to, that's paperwork issues.
Mr. Craig?
Yes, sir.
Where does most of the material come from that you work there? Does it come from the Russellville area or where?
It comes from the surrounding area, yes, sir. It comes from different grocery stores, different small mom and pop butcher shops, that type of things.
Do you receive material from considerable distance, such as other parts of the state or outside the state of Arkansas?
Batesville, Arkansas is about the farthest.
Batesville?
Batesville, yes.
No other
Silent
outside
Springs.
the state of Arkansas?
Not to my knowledge. I don't believe we do anything from outside of Arkansas. Silent Springs, yes.
And they're bringing in truckloads of material from mom and pop grocery stores?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Somebody has to take it. You can't bury this stuff. The rendering facility disposes of 59 billion pounds a year. Rendering is very old. It's one of the very old systems. And what Pilgrims has done in the last several years is we have been on the cutting edge of technology to get rid of this. We've always had that problem. Every person, I mean, I've been in rendering over 30 years now, and that's always been an issue. But technology is doing its best to keep up with the demands of it. This facility in Russellville, Arkansas, is scheduled to do 10 million pounds a week. We're doing 2.2, so I'm less than a quarter of its capacity. So I'm not over capacity whatsoever. But I am dealing with some very, very old equipment. One of the pieces of equipment in there is used for hydrolyzers of feathers. It's 1931, and we use it every day. It's one of my more reliable pieces of equipment. But this is what I'm facing every day that we come through there, and Pilgrims understands that. And that's the reason why they allocated over $800,000 in the last 18 months of my tenure there.
Well, I think we all know, though, that there are days when it's really, really almost unbearable, and it reaches all across this city. And then there are days where if you're not in that immediate industrial area, you hardly even notice it. And I applaud the 800 and whatever thousand that you say you've spent, but part of your air quality permit requires certain things in your operations.
Mm-hmm.
And the stack of papers that we received last week, you're repeatedly written up for not closing your doors, which on the surface doesn't sound like a big deal, but that's what's required to create negative pressure in your plant. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
If you leave those doors open, what keeps the smell in the plant instead of out?
Well, test results have shown that even with the major doors open, when I bring the truck materials in, I still have enough, I have over 150,000 CFM going into the building every time. So when that door is open, it still maintains a negative pressure, which I pointed out to Mr. Borman of the ADEQ during one of his visits.
And what does your air quality permit require that you do for operations?
As far as which area, sir?
Well, I think we were just talking about the doors, were we not?
The doors are kept closed until we have to go, like we have to take materials out, we have to bring materials in.
And you're just unlucky in the fact that ADEQ multiple times has mentioned keeping the doors shut. And they mentioned trailers left on the parking lot out there that have not been cleaned out multiple times in these reports we got.
Well, I can't.
I believe that's part of your air quality permit also, is it not?
Yes, it is. And during the last visit, Mr. Ben Borman was at my facility. He personally got up inside those stage trailers to look at them. And that is part of the protocol we have there. Every single trailer is washed out, every single load. That is mandatory. I don't know what it was like 30 years ago, 20 years ago. When I was a young engineer, I came to this facility. And I know what it was like 30-some years ago.
Mr. Craig, if you don't mind, I've got a couple questions for you.
Yes, sir.
Looking here at the ADEQ report, it states that you have 4 boilers permitted for 5. What is a boiler?
We got 700 horsepower boilers. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, what is the boiler? What's it do in your facility?
That's the one that generates steam.
Okay. Is that part of the smell or part not of the smell?
No, we generate steam to cook the process. The
Okay.
materials for rendering is basically what you do is you take the materials, you put it inside of a large rotating device, and rendering means render off water, and that's basically what the rendering process is.
Okay, next question. Incinerator, does that affect the smell?
No, incinerator is 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit. It's also a known fact that you cannot keep any kind of mercaptans, amines, hydrosulfide gases in that temperature, so that eliminates it. That's part of the odor abatement system.
So the incinerator plays a very big role, is
Yes,
what you're
sir.
saying. Okay, because stating right here, and this is from the most recent, the gentleman handed the mayor the most recent report, it says that you failed to maintain a minimum temperature of 1,400 degrees on 3 different days within, no, I'm sorry, 6 different days, and records were within this year, and records were missing from June. So does that, is there any relation to this write-up and the smell that we all have to suffer?
The records are indicated, which we did find today, those missing records that Mr. Borman was not given, but they were in place. He just wasn't given copies of those. Where it was out of compliance, it had dropped down about 100 degrees. Anything over 1,000 degrees is going to burn up any kind of mercaptan. And these dropped down around 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit. So, and it was for a short period of time. It was like an hour here, 2 hours there, so on and so forth. And that may have been a mixture of a problem with gas. It could have been some type of a mechanical issue. But it was quickly repaired, as the records indicate.
My last question for you, I think, is whenever any of us suffer this smell because it's outrageous, it's horrendous, and any other word to describe it, what can we do as a citizen, resident, or a city to address that the second it happens? How can we find out what that is, why, and when it's going to be fixed?
All I can do is I've contacted, like I said, I'm working closely with chemical consultants. We're doing everything as far as checks and balances. I have my production managers here with me tonight to discuss the gravity of this matter. It is a grave issue. It is obtainable. It can be done. It's going to take some more effort on Pilgrim's facility part.
But you still didn't answer my question. What can we do to find out what the problem is when the problem is there and know when it's going to be fixed?
If that answer was that easy, I'd give it to you. I don't have the answer to that question. As I said, I've been in this business 30 years. Each facility is different. The Russellville facility is different than anything I've ever been in. Now, I've been in poultry, I've been in beef, I've been in various other facilities, not just in this country, but outside this country. And it is a very, very complex issue. So I can't tell you what the one thing to do to stop this problem.
Okay. Is there a phone number or whether it be a toll-free number or a local number where someone can call, or, because nobody wants to go outside, nobody even wants to drive down the road. It's horrible.
I've supplied my number, my cell phone number, as well as my office numbers to the mayor on several different letters. Call me or my production manager.
Let me give you that cell phone number.
Okay.
It is 770-893-7498.
How can we be assured that you're going to fix this problem? You say it's an ongoing thing.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we be assured that you are going to fix this problem?
I'm doing everything that I can possibly think of from an engineering standpoint, from a chemistry standpoint, and from a process control standpoint. That's all I can do. Is I can't give you a 100% guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that I am doing everything I possibly can.
Well, for one, I'm gonna make a statement. I want to see it fixed. I'm like the gentleman out there. I'm tired of the
I think
smell.
everybody's in the same, and I'm the same way. I'm part of this community. I want to be a good neighbor. I want to be a part of this community in good standing. And that's what I'm saying. That's the reason why, if I don't have the answers, I have no problem going out and getting consultants to come in and help me with this issue.
Sir, you spent $800,000 in the last
Yes.
couple of years. It hasn't fixed the problem. Pilgrim's Pride is aware of the problem. you spent 30 years doing this. Are they going to spend more money on it? Are we going to just do consultants? I mean, there's the problem is so large. You know, it affects everybody in Russellville. It affects employees. You know, if y'all shut down, you're going to lose jobs. We don't want to do that, but I want some reassurances from Pilgrim's Pride that they're $800,000. That's pennies at a bigger problem. We need it fixed. If it takes $2 million, $10 million, fix it. That's what I'm saying. I don't care how much it costs. It's not. It just needs to be fixed.
May I don't intend to beat a dead horse here, but at an early stage, I think back in either 2011, I believe it was, or 2012, I was advised that there was an ozone process that was being looked at to help eliminate this situation. And we waited some length of time, and that didn't happen. And then I was told that there were several reasons for that, either money or some other reasons. And then I don't recall exactly at what time there was a second process that I was advised that was going to be put into place, and that has not occurred either. And I'm not positive, but I think in my documentation here I have some feedback of a third recommendation or a third process. And you know, I know this is painful for you. It's painful for everybody involved. But I have been mayor. I'm in my 4th year as mayor now. And this year is the first year in 4 years that I have received complaints from citizens that are north of the interstate in Russellville complaining about the odor. Now, there's always been complaints, as you have heard here this evening, for many, many years, mostly from the south side of town. But those folks they're needing relief, and they need it desperately. And you know, at some point in time, we have to make a decision here as a council. What's the better course of action that we should take in regard to this? Because I have not asked, and I thought about doing that, getting appraisers to give me their opinion about how this has impacted the property values in the city of Russellville. I'm not sure that can be determined other than a statement to say that this is a definite effect of the property values of Russellville. I know there are people who work here, and I feel for them and their jobs. And in that same thought, I question how many other jobs and possible developments might have come to Russellville that may have been turned away as a result of this situation. And I'm looking at it in that regard. And it is a tough decision that we need to make.
Mayor, over by the high school, sometimes it's so bad at the high school you can't stand it.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Craig, how many people do you employ at your plant?
Approximately 36.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
what authority does the city of Russellville have to act in this regard, especially considering the fact that ADEQ is involved?
I think you'd have to rely on the common law claim of public nuisance and try and file a lawsuit under that. Try and get an injunction to where the operation of the plant stopped until it can be shown that it can operate without the smell.
I want to ask one more time here, and I think I heard you make this statement, Mr. Craig, but I need clarification on it. What is the tonnage of material that you are running through there basically on a daily basis?
Weekly basis of $2.2 million, 2.2 million pounds.
2.2 million pounds on a weekly basis, okay. I also heard you state that there's nothing coming from out of state, and most of what you get here is from mom and pop grocery operations.
Not most of it, no, sir.
Well, what was that then?
That's probably, we're probably getting about 200,000 pounds from the smaller butcher shops and places of that nature.
200,000 out of 2.5 million?
Yes, sir.
Is that how?
And the remainder of that, is that poultry or is that some other?
The remainder of it's poultry.
Okay. All right.
So,
Any-
Miss-
Any other? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I despise the odor. I really despise the odor, and I live a pretty good distance from the plant, and this summer it's been awful. It's been just horrible. And I've listened to here tonight, and you've talked about how old this plant is. I'm gonna call it a plant. And you really haven't given us, or I haven't perceived, that you've given us any insight on a fixable, something that's fixable. Is there anything out there that is fixable, and do you have a time frame for fixing it?
I'm bringing it up to our engineering staff at Pilgrim's Pride in Colorado on a regular basis, and I've been assured by them that it will be fixed. That's as best as I can do. I can't speak for all of Pilgrim's Pride, but that's what I have been assured by our Department of Environmental Quality in Pilgrim's.
Because I'm ready to ask, to tell the mayor, my opinion is to go ahead and pursue whatever it takes for the citizens of Russellville to get this resolved.
I agree.
I mean, I moved here in 1972, and it was an odor then, and now it's 2014, and there's still an odor. And recently, there was a concert over there at the high school, just driving by there. I held my breath from Atwoods to what I got around the bend. I mean, I did not want to breathe. And I don't think, and I feel sorry for all the businesses that are out there, the Tri-Mountain Pools, the Bearfields, the Kirby's, all of those people. They too have employees, and they shouldn't have to endure this every day for weeks upon weeks. And I would like to see you give us a definite date when this is going to be done, or I would like to see the mayor pursue whatever it takes to bring a judge into it, lawyers, and get us an answer for all the people of our town. I'll smile.
Anybody else?
Well, I just, I want to be sure everybody understands. I don't think anybody on this side of the table really wants to file a lawsuit on you. They don't want to threaten your job. They would all like to see this worked out. I grew up in a town with a paper mill, so I know sometimes that's part of you take the good with the bad with industry. But see, I'm the new guy here. I've only been here 24 years. I don't remember the 70s when it was really bad. What I do know is that in my 24 years here, the last 2 or 3 years, it has gotten worse and worse and worse, and it's more frequent. The other thing I know, I've been told in the last, since this discussion came up, by 2 different people, and before anybody says anything, this is not connected to our economic development team, the chamber, or anybody. These are 2 individuals, a realtor and another guy, talking about people that came here looking to locate a business here. They looked around, and then the last thing we heard from them is, "What's that smell?" Now, when I asked you about follow up on Mayor's question there about what you're processing, you told me that you're processing basically byproducts from mom and pop grocery stores, and now after further investigation, that's 200,000 pounds out of 2.5 million. It strikes me as a little odd that the mom and pop came to your mind first when it's, what, 1%? 0.1%? That's a very small items.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm starting to question whether you're being a little bit disingenuous with us on the whole story, because that part there, you knew what I was looking for.
No, I beg your pardon, I do not know what you're looking for.
I'm done, Mayor.
All right. Thank you. Anything else?
Mr. Craig, do you think you could come back to us next month and give us more firm information, more definite information, more, something so people can make a decision based off of?
Let
Most
me
definitely.
piggyback off what Mr. Tripp is saying. Can someone from your corporate office who has actually some authorization to spend some money and fix this come and talk to the council? If they really are interested in improving this process, like you say, and fixing this issue, I would think a plane ticket would be a pretty cheap way to come back and try to convince this council and this city and this community that you really are serious about fixing this.
Okay. Yes, I think I could commit to that, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else on this item? All right, we do have a late agenda item to consider that was brought to us. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Craig and others regarding that.
Your Honor, we already had a motion and a second. Can we proceed with that?
In regard to this, I'm
To this
okay.
new item.
We had several discussions, yeah. We'll have to go back and revive that motion. What was that motion?
I'll renew that motion that we nominate Mr. Spence Roberts to fill the vacancy on the A&P committee.
And I will renew my second.
Okay,
Question.
okay. Go ahead and ask your question.
I just want to know why I'm not going to get to take up his liaisons that he had when all the other councils already got their spots. Why am I not going to be able to take the ones that he said had?
Evidently because the statute requires otherwise.
Okay, that's all I got.
There will be another opening there in January, Mr.
Okay,
Wiley.
I understand that, but I don't know why I can't understand why I wasn't appointed to take over the ones that he had.
Because you were not selected by the governing body. You were put on the council,
I understand.
and I'm just telling you the law.
I understand.
Any other discussion on that motion?
The only thing I'd like to point out, we've always selected these liaisons when we organized ourselves at the first of the year. We have never, to my knowledge, voted on liaisons to the advertising and promotion.
And that's the key point. It's not the first of the year.
Pardon?
That's the key point you just said. It's not the first of the year, where it's general consent.
This
And what
is
it
the
said-
middle.
What the statute reads that the A&P commission will be chosen by.
Selected by the governing body and serve at the will of the governing body.
I don't know what else to do then. That's what we do.
That's right. Okay, we do have a motion and a second.
Can I clarify what the motion is? Because I thought I heard a motion earlier.
Yes,
Nominate Mr. Roberts to
Mr.
fill that
Roberts,
opening.
okay.
And I second it.
there was a motion and a second to nominate Mr. Spence Roberts to fill this vacancy on A&P. Any other discussion? All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I would like a voice vote on that, please, ma'am.
Mr. Horton.
Aye.
Mr. Martin Irwin.
Aye.
Mr. Richard Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Tripp.
Aye.
Ms. Freddie Harris.
Can I explain my vote?
Nope, not allowed.
Abstain.
Mr. Stuber.
Abstain.
Mr. Roberts. Mr. Wiley.
Abstain.
All right. I vote yes.
Motion to adjourn.